Hello, you're back with a single malt review, and in our 5 years of trying whisky on camera, we have had the pleasure of sampling a number of excellent New Zealand whiskies. We have sorely neglected our big brother from another mother, it's Australia, so let's put that right with an Australian single malt.
The Starward distillery of Melbourne, a reasonably recent endeavour, although one that's doing very, very well now. In fact, they are in the process of upgrading their distillery, so watch that space there. They have very, very kindly sent us a bottle of their Nova, which is, I guess, as close as you can get to their house style, for review. And so we are going to get straight down to that one. A little bit of a delay because it arrived just about as the world exploded and the whole COVID-19 situation began, and it's far from over, but we can at least now get together and do whiskies like this justice. So we shall do exactly that.
Yeah. So this whisky is matured exclusively in Australian red wine barrels, and Australia produces some amazing red wine, I can tell you.
Known for it, to say the very least. But the barrels themselves, they will typically come, not exclusively, but they will be French. So, in a roundabout way, the same European oak that a lot of sherry matured whiskies would be matured in, just from a completely different end of the spectrum. No sherry here, just lots and lots of juicy, jammy, fruity Aussie Shiraz, Cab Sav, all the deep, full, extremely alcoholic, extremely ripe red wines that they are known for in Australia. And yes, this is what it has been matured in. And matured for between 3 and 4 years, they tell me.
There's no age statement, but Australia being obviously a very warm climate, you get a rapid maturation. But this is the natural colour. That has gone quite, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but that has gone quite dark in a short space of time, which is an impressive size.
They've certainly got all the colour they need. And they specifically mentioned when I was talking to their distiller, it comes a point that the whisky ages so rapidly in these very, very active casks that they actually see a degradation of the spirit after sort of 5-6 years old. It becomes too oaky and starts to squash the sort of spirit-driven, fruity characters. So they are in the enviable position of being incentivised to bottle their whisky young for the best flavour rather than just the best sort of profits, I suppose you could accuse other distillers of. But interestingly enough, my other question was, what was their rate of evaporation? Because Melbourne, if anyone's been there, can have some frighteningly hot summers. They get some just, well, from a New Zealander's perspective, insane temperatures in the middle of summer, but not so much in winter. So their rate of evaporation rarely goes above 4% for their main barrels. And that's still very high compared to Scottish standards, which are sub 2 typically, or even smaller than that. But it's nowhere near the sort of devastating rate of evaporation that we see in India. And my very, very quick, uninformed theory of that is that Melbourne, though it's stonkingly hot in summer, it's not quite so bad in the winter, whereas in sort of Goa and where is Amrit?
Amrit, further up, and I think it's in Uttar Pradesh.
Right, so more northern India. There it's just hot all year round. There's no reprieve from the winter, so that's probably why the rate of evaporation is the Angel's share is a little bit less. A little bit less than Melbourne. So, that's, I think, all the tech specs on the whisky.
You mentioned filtration.
Yes, no colouring, as you pointed out. No shortage of colour here, but it is chill filtered, which you'd expect at a curious 41% ABV. And the reason for that, and I ask quite specifically because that's something, in the craft whisky business, you always want to be cognizant of whether and why something has been chill filtered. This has been, to take them at their word, chill filtered intentionally. It doesn't have to be, but it was chill filtered with a focus on maximising the flavour. And to taste the whisky, we'll get further into this, I think I can agree. I think we've seen enough comparisons between chill filtration and lack thereof these days that you can, at the risk of being lampooned by the chill filtration lynch mob out there, it is beneficial for some whiskies, and I think we'll get further into that as we do the tasting proper, but this is definitely, as they have discovered, one of those whiskies. So, let's dig in.
And it's a surprisingly gentle nose for such a young spirit. But it's
no burn whatsoever.
No.
No over sort of youthfulness going on there. But what there is a whole lot of fruit.
Yeah, there's a lot of florals too. I'm thinking like roses, camellias, sort of like your typical summer garden flowers. But also, fruit, fresh grapes on the vine.
Rose water as well.
Rose
Bit of
water.
Turkish delight going on in here.
Mm.
Very, very, very lush.
Oh, it's
and
good.
that lush character I will come back around to because I think that is what is maximised by the targeted chill filtration. But yeah, berries, fresh fruit, not so much the stewed fruit that you get from sherry maturation in Scotland.
None of that. There's a hint of spice though.
But everything here is fresh and super duper ripe. Anyway, on the palate.
Always tasty.
Yeah. Again, super duper juicy. It's to use my, it's probably frustrating by now, speed analogy of the palate. This is a very quick palate. This is rapid. It really races across the tongue.
Yeah.
It flows. It's really, really fruity, really juicy, and it's refreshing as well. You can't say that about a great many malt whiskies.
It is cool and crisp, which are not normally two descriptors for whiskey. It is a good hit of, I get a lot of cranberry up front, cranberry juice, dried cranberries, that slowly morphs into a sort of a berry sorbet and even a little bit of sherbet. It's sort of a fizzy, lively acid at the
red
end.
berries. And lively is the word. This is a lively, dynamic, alive whiskey.
But it does not have the raw, rough heat of young spirit. It is fully matured in its relatively short space of time to become...
To sort of further quantify the tasting notes, I think we'll add a little bit of water. It obviously doesn't want too much at only 41. It starts off, I think, showing most of its red wine heritage from its maturation with these very, very ripe Shiraz-esque, I suppose you could say, berry fruits, but none of that jamminess, none of that stewed, cooked that you can get from big fat Aussie Shiraz, Syrah in the rest of the world. But then it goes a little bit spicy, as you mentioned, and then I think there's a real cooling cola element in there.
Yeah.
Does that speak to you at all?
Despite having this obviously at room temperature, but it has a sort of an icy menthol slick of coolness that just layers over your tongue once it's passed.
Some cooling cola, and then it would be tempting to call it eucalyptus just because where this came from, but it's not something that distinct. But there is a little cool menthol character which just adds to this freshness.
It's as though it is running over an ice cube on the way.
Yeah, it is. It is almost like a whiskey that had been freshened with ice. Only the ice is not here. So goodness knows the monster you'd create by putting ice in here. You might take it too far. You drink it all in one sip. No, can't be trusted. So, I think right around the edges, just to get all the tasting notes out of the way, there is a wee bit of chocolate, milk chocolate, which we see time and again in wine finishes, particularly port. Which is interesting because you find it nowhere in the wine themselves. Port doesn't taste like chocolate. Shiraz certainly doesn't taste like chocolate, but somehow in the word there's this magical alchemy which makes it kind of come back around. In fact, they've listed chocolate as one of their dominant tasting notes here. I don't think it's
berries and spice.
I don't think the chocolate and spice are massively dominant for me, but I suppose cola is a spice, isn't it? So
it's a nut.
When you get down to it, then yes, agree. I think this is really, really good, and just incredible that it's as young as it is. Because we've tried young whiskies before, and you can usually tell, even once the information is revealed, and you start looking for the new spirit characters, you'll be able to find them. But I just can't, and I've tried. This one is 3.5 average years, though it may be, it is fully mature, and that is a wonder. That is somehow even ahead of, you might know this, what is Armroot typically bottled their no-age statement whiskies?
Not many years at all. It is because of just how the sheer rapidity of maturation in the Indian climate, it is extremely young, I believe. After all the unbelievably old Chairman's Special Reserve, the Greedy Angels, ultra exclusive,
Yeah,
ultra aged.
that was
Amrit
all
is 8 years old.
Yeah, I knew it was a single digit. So maybe they're not too dissimilar here. But either way, there is some secret sauce happening there because it is they've in this hot climate, it's a whiskey time machine. It really takes places. I need to, and I'm not sure how. Well, with the postal service back up and running now, I can probably go and order some, can't I? But this is but one of a great many different offerings that Starward produce, and not all of them are chill filtered. So I'll be able to make that comparison myself, exactly what the difference is. But
this is the first Australian whiskey I've ever tried, but it's not going to be the last.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to go out and buy myself a bottle of Starward, either this one or something else from the range, pretty soon, I think, so we can try more.
Yeah, they weren't at this year's Dramfest, which was a shame. They were at the previous one, but we do hope to see them back in the country soon. Scores for this one, it's a really easy whiskey to enjoy. It's a slightly harder whiskey to score because it's so unlike most of its peers. This one is, I think, even more different to sort of the baseline Scotch that we kind of compare malt whiskey to, even than the Indian whiskies. Some of the Indian whiskies, if I was surprised by them, if you snuck up behind me and made me taste one, I might have missed the fact that they weren't of a Scottish origin because they share so much of that DNA. This one really is different.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is the wood. Because the Indian ones, though their spirit character is quite a bit different, and we've identified a lot of flavours which live there, the wood is typically the same, using the same old bourbon wood.
We tried recently a 9-year-old Speyside Scotch, which was matured entirely in Spanish red wine barrels. So on the face of it, it seems there's a lot of commonality here, and while there are some little characteristics which are the same on the palate, on the nose, the degree of difference here between this whiskey and that Glenallachie is stark.
So scores. I won't keep you waiting any further. This is an 89 for me. This is a unique whiskey, but it's very, very good at what it does. But I think it might be a bit divisive amongst drinkers because it is so unique amongst malt whiskies around the world that if you don't sort of go in for the experience that it offers, it might treat you a little bit differently. But it clicks with me, and it clicks hard. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to pick out any one element of this that a whiskey connoisseur wouldn't enjoy, and I'm coming from blank. There is nothing about this which is putting me off. And it's a young spirit with a unique cask type, but both of those are working in its favour. And I would rate it a solid 91.
There you go. So yeah, really, really sound stuff, and always excellent to see a Southern Hemisphere whiskey, especially one so close to us, doing such great stuff on the world stage, because I think their expansion would suggest they are doing quite well for themselves. So thank you again for Starward for sending this one our way. It's always appreciated, not having to go and beat the path ourselves to find fodder for the channel. So good stuff from them. We will watch that distillery with interest in the future.
That's an apt name if their trajectory is in fact taking them there onwards.
Maybe. Anyway, that's enough from us, Snodger. We will be right back with something extremely different. I can guarantee at this time something exceptionally wild. Two completely unique whiskies in the world coming up. Single bottlings. Goodness me. How much could we be paid for those?
Goodness.
And how astonished will you be when it was 0?